Before we get into the specifics of visible thinking, it's helpful to go over the background of Project Zero as a whole and the specific projects that paved the way for visible thinking. Here's an overview of Harvard's Project Zero. I know you can't read any of the smaller text yet, but just from this overview, it's easy to get a sense of how much this project has grown in its 53 years since beginning in the late 1960s. Initially focusing on education and the arts, the project shifted focus around 1980 to explore research-based ideas of thinking in the mind that apply to all subject areas. Let's start at the beginning. Project Zero was founded in 1967 by philosopher Nelson Goodman, and it has a strong base in cognitive behavioural psychology. This was essentially a response to the behaviouralist approach to education that had typically been the prevailing attitude of the time. The cognitivist approach meant much more of a focus on the processes and connections being made rather than right or wrong intelligence. Down here you'll see some people of note. David Perkins, who we'll see in the next video, is actually one of the 4 key contributors to the Visible Thinking Project, and Howard Gardner, and if you don't know who he is at this stage of the game, you might want to reevaluate some things. In 1989, we see a research project called Patterns of Thinking. This was the earliest predecessor to visible thinking, and focused on a move from cultivating thinking skills to thinking dispositions. Because what good are the skills if A, students don't want to use them, and B, students don't recognise situations that they are needed? Research in this project found that the lack of awareness when to use thinking skills was a greater barrier than first thought, and was in fact the biggest barrier to students attempting to demonstrate their intelligence. This project ran from 1989 to 1998, and Project Zero's professors looked at the research and came up with Innovating with Intelligence, implemented from the year 2000 to 2005 in Sweden. This project is the direct forerunner to visible thinking and builds on the idea of thinking dispositions by providing visible thinking routines as a method of integrating thinking into the classroom culture without being just another program to be implemented. In this way, students develop in the areas of 4 key thinking ideals: truth, fairness, creativity, and understanding. Although Innovating with Intelligence as a research project ended in 2005, the project lives on as Visible Thinking, which continues to develop students' thinking dispositions in the areas of truth-seeking, understanding, fairness, and imagination through visible thinking routines. We'll come back to visible thinking in greater detail in the next section. From visible thinking, there are 2 more projects which have grown. Artful Thinking, which uses music and visual arts to encourage thinking dispositions, and Cultures of Thinking, which seeks to enhance learning with a focus on individual and group thinking processes. Project Zero and its goals seem more important than ever for the future of education and the types of attitudes we are trying to cultivate in our learners. That's about it for the history section, but I'll leave you with these 2 questions up the top of the tree that Project Zero has made the focus of recent years. We will go through them in the next section, but I want you to think about them and how they relate to what we're trying to achieve with the teaching and learning strategies that we've been learning in this unit.